Michael has problems with his chair. So
that's setting this record straight and problems with chair.
yeah, that's why I didn't have to hassle him, because he was doing a complete self heckle
This is
before we
all
start. Oh, hey, look at that.
This is all I have left, and I've had to scrounge to make sure because I went to my loving wife. This, by the way, is Martelle peanut brittle. It is fantastic. Craig's dad actually makes this, and I'm more than willing to pay him, but he doesn't. He doesn't actually make it all the time. He's not a professional, unfortunately. And I had to hold on to it just so I could eat some during this conversation. And I went to my wife, going, "You know what? We have a whole lot of apples. She can eat apples." I went and found her. I said, "Where did that that peanut brittle I let you have, the other bag?" Thinking in my largesse, she'll never eat very much of it. Where is it? So, because I'm going to go ahead and eat it. And she's like, "It's in my stomach." I'm like, "Oh, not getting that back, am I?"
She ate the whole thing, and there
Yeah.
you are looking at those apples, thinking, "I'm not going to eat you, no matter how much I'm on."
This is the last damn time I do that.
Yeah,
I learned my lesson.
I'm just gonna starve rather than eat an apple. Jesus. Hey,
Well,
Craig
no.
Martelle,
Yeah, go
coming
ahead.
to you live from the subarctic, where it's dark, and it's going to be dark most of the day, at least 20 hours worth. And today we wanted to talk about setting the record straight. I mean, we'll reminisce about the past and bring you up to speed on what people were thinking, what we were thinking, and just share our stories, and hopefully get you to share your stories about 20 books to 50K and what this has all meant to us over the last 5 years, or 4 years and 9 months, 8
Yeah.
months, something like that, for when Michael actually started the Facebook group with 4 other people of 20 books to 50K. Where are you coming to us from, Michael?
I'm coming from Henderson, right outside Las Vegas, 20 minutes from the Strip, a little bit higher elevation, so I get to see it at night. Yeah, so
Nice.
I was going to go back to the Facebook group and actually see what is the date that I created it, because it was 4 of my fans asking me questions. Because I had put in my author notes things about this indie thing I was doing, right, for the first 4 books, which had released in 2 months. And so it was around book 5-ish that I'm like, "Hey, if anyone's got questions, I'd be happy to help you." They went off. They wrote stories. Those stories didn't, and the results of those stories weren't well received on K-boards because they were all in the top 10,000 when they were upon release, and I had it. So I'm like, you know what? I don't need this. I've got this Facebook group called 20 Books to 50K, which is based on the premise that I had created when I was in Cabo San Lucas. And we were there for a wedding for our friends, Jeremy Gregg and Paula Nalva. And I was at the Pacifica, and I was like, you know what? I'm making $7.50 a day. And this is after like my first 2 books were released, because it was in between books 2 and 3 that I created the premise. And the original premise was strictly for me. I just used that premise to name the group for my fans.
Yeah.
So, that was the idea. And when I had gone to K-boards and it originally said, "Hey, I got this group," we had 4 people. I thought 4 more would show up, and I could handle 8 people. It quickly became 80 in just a couple of days, and I started reaching out to others that I knew at the time, including T.S. Scott Paul, who's passed away, unfortunately. He was the original admin who would boot people. And then the Double Ds, Diane and Doreen, and there's some others. And then at the first artist, what was it? Damn it, what was the name of that group? You went to it in the 3rd year, back in Austin.
SAS. Yeah.
Yes.
The Smarter Artist Summit.
Smarter Artists. So at the very first one, I met some amazing people, including Boyd Craven, but I also met Kevin with Draft to Digital, and Mark, Leslie Lefebvre, and others. And I just reached out to them and said, "Hey, we got people over here, these indies that are coming over, and they're asking questions about Wide, and I don't have a freaking clue. I just met you. I'm so sorry to ask, but would you mind joining just so I could point them?" So I started trying to bring in people that had answers that I did not have. And so that's how it started. Then you,
I think I came in the second day. I think I was in the top 50, one of the first 50 people who came in. and that was like the second day, and people flooded over. And my experience is serendipity had it that I published within a few months of Michael. I published my
Early.
first book.
You're
And
earlier than me.
no, I published January 16th of 2016.
Oh, really? I thought you were
Yeah,
earlier than me.
well, I started
See?
I started writing full time right before you published your first book. So
Okay.
writing full time, and you weren't writing full time yet. You were still working your day job, but you jammed out these books and you had a product. So you had your fourth book out by the time I had my first one out, but it was only 3 months that had passed. So I went to K-Boards, and I was naive as hell. I had no clue.
Yeah,
And I remember saying, because people were like, how are you going to advertise that book? And people were bagging on the covers, unreasonably so. I mean,
my cover?
My covers.
You're good. What do you mean unreasonably? Setting the record straight.
Well, unreasonably from people over there was, you need to go back to your day job. You should probably quit writing.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Based on my cover. So yeah, that's unreasonable. And because they said, how are you going to advertise this? Well, I'm like, I look through and I'm like, I'll just get a book pub. Very nice. So 69 tries later, hey, I got a book pub. Still, it was the way they approached it. I mean, that hey, don't give up your day job. Okay, cover sucks. All right, but how do I improve it? And this was what was lacking that Michael created with 20 books to 50K. It's like, just say what you did. And if somebody looks and says, hey, I like your covers, how did you approach those? And now we have cover professionals. When we do cover day, oh my God, you should see, you cannot differentiate indie covers from what we might consider traditional publishing. If you just look down them, they're every bit as good. They're every bit impactful. You look at those blurbs, and this is where Michael never set out to change the world, but we are blurring the lines between indie and trad in such a way that the readers don't know the difference. Some bitch.
That record is straight. I find it interesting that even now, 5 years later, I'm like, oh, really? I guess I'm getting my record straight.
Yeah, you're still bagging on my cover, my original cover, which has been dead for. I had it 5 years ago, and it's been dead now for a good 6 months.
Because that was definitely something that you were focused on.
Yeah.
You'd probably kept it up there just to harass me.
Now, I got rid of it as soon as the problem was, when you first start, if you don't have a group like 20 books to 50K or some of the other support groups around, you don't know where to look. I had no idea where to go. And so I found a pre-made designer on K-Boards, and I'm like, okay, hey, kind of looks like the thing, but there was no guidance of, yes, that may be an element within your story, but it doesn't match your genre. It doesn't sell the book. And so I bought 3 pre-mades that I used on 2 books, and then immediately replaced them, because once I got in contact with Tom Edwards, I got the best covers money could buy, and then we didn't have any problems. I'm still using those same covers because they were that good, and that series is still selling well. I just have a new release today, my second book in my new thriller series, and my top 4 books for sales today are the new book, and the next one is the book I published, the second book I published with the Tom Edwards covers from 4.5 years ago. So it's eminently doable, and these are the things that we learned here in 20 books to 50K that we learned from each other. Is this box set? It's the little box set that could. Second book I ever wrote, second and third books. And there they are, anchoring this box set that's still selling really, really well every single day.
I find it interesting. So I've told my kids many times, what's the difference between the person who can read and one who doesn't, or one who can read but doesn't, and one who can't read? And the answer is nothing. Neither one of them gain, right? And so you think about it, neither one of us, you or I, we had the money to buy covers in the beginning. I didn't, because I didn't know what would or wouldn't sell. You didn't, because you didn't go where to look. So the answer is, between those who cannot afford great covers and you and I who could but didn't know anything, there was no difference between it, except
zero.
It's knowledge. The person who had a very tiny budget back when we started and used the knowledge that they can gain here and other places will have had better covers than you and I started out with. Hands down, trust me, is the truth. We're setting the record straight.
You just scroll down our cover threads. I did one, I think, yesterday, and just scroll down the hundreds of comments and look and see the difference between there and what you saw from indies as a whole, especially indies new to the industry 4 years ago. Because you now have a place to go, you now have a place to see. Hey, here's what professional looks like. Here's a way to act. Something that you don't just say, "Hey, I'm coming on. I'm going to get a book club." Yeah, fuck that.
Warning,
Nice.
language warning.
I saw that Elaine already put it up. The nice try. Yes, I'm just going to get a book bub because I can afford it. Yeah, who cares? Yeah, book bub doesn't, because if you get one, you're affording it.
No, I've never had a book club strictly on my name. I've had others, my collaborators, because within LMBPN there's a rule that says if if you get a book club, LMBPN will pay your portion of it. The first one, if you get really lucky, I don't want to be on the hook for $700 every time, but the first one, hands down, right? So I've never had a book club just with only my name on it. Yeah, so 69 tries or whatever. I'd have to have tried that many times to have failed that many times.
Yeah, I've gotten one US and 5 or 6 internationals, and I tell you what, I get my money back every time and then some. So it's I'll keep pushing for them. And actually, I don't even have one pending right now. I should put one in there. I'll get to it.
I mean, you've only written 2,500 words since this morning.
This morning, that's right. I was a little bit late linking up with Michael because I'm so stoked. I'm so close to the end on my my Executioner book 11, which is a co-written book with Michael, and that one we'll publish in January. I'm at 81,000 words, and this series is 65 to 72,000 words was the biggest one, I think. Might have had 75,000, but I'm nowhere near finished. So this one's going to be like 100,000 words, and the fans they'll like it because it's doing a crossover. So it's all good stuff. But I'm at that point in the stories where I just need to write everything down. So I almost forgot Michael. I'm like, oh crap, look at this. I forget coffee. So instead of jumping on with Michael saying, okay, sorry, I'm a little late, I was a lot late, but I have coffee now.
Yes. I was wondering if it's like, interesting. He's usually not this tardy with the link. You'll turn the link on and whatever. So that's not relative to setting the record straight.
So 20 books at 50K. I'm the one who said later this is a retirement plan, because that's what it is. If you can make 50 grand a year, you can retire for 35 grand in Cabo. So it's a retirement plan. So 750 a day. That's just it's basic math, but it's to give you an idea of the foundation of what you need to create. And 750 a day for a book is not overwhelming. And I think that was the biggest selling point, was that's all you need to get in order to hit this minimum to be able to retire in Cabo. And yes, we always shoot higher, because don't set your sights so low, but you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's in the beginning, that was it. I knew nobody. When I released my first book, I had never even heard of K-boards. I did not know anything about podcasts. It was when I released it. I did, however, already know how to do online advertising. So I'd already been part of Facebook ads. It was part of what my business was at the time, which was online and offline sales and the integration thereof. I was already a programmer, so there was already a logic mechanism in place for me to know. So I didn't come into this business without some skills. I didn't know I had never written a book before. So my first books were not edited that well. And so we learned quite a few things in the beginning, that which is the better the book is, the less your editing has to necessarily be there. And so I have been vociferous over my debates about how editing can screw a book up and completely take the life out of things. And that, perfect editing does not mean you will either A, sell, or B, not sell. It's one of those hashtag probablys for me, because I wouldn't put out books without the editing now. I can afford it, but we still have a 3-week process where, well, technically we're going to do 4, but that's because of pre-orders. But we are out the door 3 weeks from when a person delivers their book, and we're on track. I never believed in having 6 weeks or 12 weeks editing time. Just wasn't part of what I was willing to accept, and so I didn't. And so that's where the JIT, the just in time, which comes from my IT background, where I would be putting stuff out And the JIT, the readers who were helping me proofread and tweak some of this, they were reading as I was writing. So I would write about 5 chapters and then I would start giving it to them. And as I started moving into 6, 7, and 8, they would be, finishing right along with me. So in the last week, I would drop them the rest of the book like on a Monday. They would finish what they had left. I would make the changes and it would be out on Friday. And so that was the beginning, if you will, of a production line. And that was kind of unheard of at the time.
Because it's the epitome of efficiency. But this is where people were confused at the beginning. They're like, oh, just put out a lot of books, even if they're crap, and make money. That's the Anderle method, and it's absolutely wrong. Because even though Michael said I didn't necessarily edit my first books, editing is a factor. Yes, not well, but you edited them. You did reread. You did go through them, and now you understand it. Now you write better. Your people you work with write better, and they deliver. And still, it goes through the editing process. It goes through the proofreading process. If it's a new series, it goes through the beta reading process to make sure that the stories are sound. So these are factors. Like if you can only afford Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid and a few proofreaders that will do it for free, then hey, just go through the process. And that's one thing that people misunderstood, that just write a bunch of crap and put it out there and you make money, which is grossly wrong. You have to write a good story. Technical factors take a backseat to a good story. But if you can get those technical elements correct, as in you don't have a typo on every page, given you don't give the people a reason to quit reading. So every book does get edited. Every book gets proofread, which is more significant than what I've got 4 books with I guess Penguin now. They used to be with Simon and Schuster. But so I've got 4 books with them, and I'll tell you what, I've got a lot more typos in them than I do in my books, than I do in the ones that I publish, and definitely not the ones with Michael, because the proofread, we have like 20 proofreaders. This is after a rather significant insider team review and the editor review. So there might be one typo, but that's it.
Yeah, we're just fast. We just don't accept the common wisdom that it takes weeks and weeks to do it. That was never accepted. So from the standpoint of out of the box thinking, it was more of a situation of we were never in the box to step out of it again. We're just looking at it from you and I both from a business perspective of what makes sense, what can we accomplish, and not allowing to be confined by the traditional expectations of this business at the beginning. We look at it as like, LMBPN is a 24-hour company. We have somebody awake working on our product 24 hours a day because we're worldwide.
Yeah.
We relatively early reached out and started hiring people to take over important facets of the business who were skilled and who had a desire to, help others, was actually a major piece that has allowed people to want to join us. It's not just for a paycheck. It's because they enjoy working with everyone that's here, and they understand that one of those somehow or another, we end up helping a lot of people, and that means a lot to them.
And that's one thing that I did that you adopted from me was I put my editor on retainer. I paid her for 100,000 words at the beginning of the month and had her as priority for exactly that. When I first hired her, and she did a great job for me, I needed to reserve spots 2-3 months down the road. So I did that. And I'm like, okay, here's this book, here's this book, here's this. And I gave her like 10 books over the course of 10 months. And I reserved that spot. And when it came up, we did that. And I asked her, I'm like, hey, can I just put you on retainer for 100,000 words so I can start moving these dates around a little bit? And she said, absolutely. As soon as your book comes in, I'll start it no matter what I'm working on elsewhere. So I just paid her for 100,000 words each month. And that's what I gave her. And success. Genius. Well, and within a week, I would turn over the book, and within a week, I would have my edited copy back.
Hey, since some of this stuff we're talking about was 5 years ago, let's talk about something a little bit new. You and I talked about this week some. A few weeks ago, you and I were on a C&M show, and we were talking about VAs, virtual assistants. Effectively, you're outsourcing the work that you need to be done that can be done by someone else, even if it could, maybe not, be done better by you. And I had mentioned that LMBPN has hired someone. And I said, it is the ultimate VA situation that's going on. Or as someone else in the group said, it's a gangster move. I'll let you figure out who that was. And that is, we hired Robin Cook, lately of
Cutler.
Ingram Spark. Oh yeah, man, how in the world did I think? Anyway, Robin Cutler of Ingram Spark. And, that was like the ultimate move as you're building your company, because now LMBPN is outside of founder led, so to speak. It's no longer just a founder driven company.
Yeah.
It's its own entity. And it is a situation of saying, okay, this is where this company is moving on, regardless of what happens to me. And
Well,
so,
and also,
go ahead.
it also it frees you up, and this is what you always look for in a VA, to free you up from doing that thing which does not provide maximum profitability above a certain element. If writing newsletters take you 2 hours and you deplore doing them, but they're easy and you have them kind of templated and you just need to make sure the links are all right, then you can outsource that. And those 2 hours, how many words can you produce? As I saw this morning, as I was cranking on the story, is, hey, that's like 2,500 words. That the payoff on those is pretty damn good. So when I publish this book in January, it's going to be a damn good payoff. So you look at that and say, what can relieve some of this burden, and I get more value from what I do best. Mm-hmm. And what Michael saw as his creative side, it was being impacted by the president of the company side, and doing that stuff and meeting with people. Because Michael, despite his outgoing and happy nature, is kind of okay not having 10 meetings a day, 9 of them with strangers.
I'm beyond okay. You're really sandbagging on me here. This is what a best friend does, which is lie his ass.
I don't lie.
What do you do? What do you do? You're military intelligence. I mean, that's where you came from. You were trained by our government to lie fluently in multiple languages. You speak Russian. We're setting the record straight here. You speak Russian. I'm sure you lied in Russian too. Yeah. I'm going to be behind the whole wall of, I can't say anything. I'm still under whatever rules and regulations you are.
I'm sorry. About what do you talk? Yeah, no, I actually do. I'm still 30 years on some, but I have when I worked in the Pacific, I had a 30-year non-disclosure. But what I found out from some of my friends, after that 30 years runs out and you start saying things, they didn't really mean 30 years. They meant forever. So no, I'm not going to talk about that stuff ever.
They meant forever. Well, it's like, excuse me, the document says, what happens then? Or do they just come around to the two guys in the black suits, knock on your door and say, excuse me?
You get uncomfortable emails. The subterfuge, the way they leverage is get IRS to crawl up your ass with a microscope. So I prefer not to have that done. And so no, you have no secrets.
Okay, well, there we go. Well, that bites. That's pretty
Nobody wants IRS up their ass.
Yeah, no.
They're all bristly. It's no fun.
Well, that's the part. It's not like I don't mind if the IRS were to do something, but just the annoyance and how much you have to pay the CPA to do that stuff is like, not worth it. And I don't even have any contracts to say anything. It's like, oh, my shit's made up.
Another hack, and that's I don't have a CPA, but I kind of like doing the tax part of it, because then I stay in touch with my expenses and my earnings and all the stuff that I do, and my taxes will take probably 2 full days. So I'll finish a book and I'll say, okay, I'm not going to start the next one. Let me get my taxes done. I'll take 2 full days consolidating stuff. I'll send out my 1099s to everybody who I've offended over the year, and then and then I'll submit them and probably pay a lot of money. I think I'm gonna owe some money this year. This year has been very good from a revenue perspective.
No, and to be fair, a lot of times your years are good. You've just given away so much money that you end up being net negative.
that it's not a whole big deal. Yeah, that's right. I deduct as much as humanly possible, though. Trust me.
Yeah. We've done a lot of audio. What are your predictions for where this business is headed? Oh, that's a good question. Oh, it's the end of the year. It's an appropriate question too. Thank you, Facebook user, for that.
Oh yeah, probably our last show for 2020. 2020.
Yeah. So what do you think, man? Where's 2021 going?
I think it's going to be a reset, and it's going to be a whole new world come 2021. I think audio is going to pick up again because people are going to be back in their cars at some point, like maybe mid-year. People are going to get back on the road. They're going to need that good vacation reading, and people have grown comfortable with not being entertained uh, by going around meeting with people, going to parties, having other people entertain them. And some bad movies. I heard Wonder Woman 84 was not a great entertainment ride. People aren't rewatching Game of Thrones. And so where are they going to find this new entertainment? I think it's in books, because people have been conditioned that, hey, you're going to be home by yourself. What can you do? And when we convince one person to become a reader, they can read a hell of a lot more than what we write. So then they read a lot more stuff. And this is going to be a huge win for the indies in 2021. In the first 6 months, I believe we're going to see a big increase in book sales. Come mid-year, we're going to see audio pick up, because we'll see people back in their cars and back on the road. And then by the fall, I think it will be back to business as usual and be looking for that edge of what do we need to do now as people start getting distracted and start getting away from books again.
So I didn't actually give any of this from a wider consideration as I'm going through it. So here's some items that are off the top of my head where I see us going. The trad pubs are much more aware of business consumer. They're never going to go back. So that whole situation of where they mostly had salespeople go and talk to bookstores, twice a year, 6 months ahead, that has changed. POD has made them completely understandable of backlist. So there will be some challenges, but it doesn't matter. And I'll add this because there's a caveat of AI that tends to cause some people to freak out. If there's only 150,000 top books that are selling well right now and we're going to keep this discussion totally confined to Amazon. So what happens at that point is once you get somewhere past 150, 100, 200,000 books, the actual daily sales or even the monthly sales is not that much. So it doesn't matter if you have 8 million or 80 million books, it's still the top 200,000 books or so. So whether or not Simon and Schuster, who's building their own business to consumer brand, so they're bypassing Amazon for a lot of this because they just don't want the take going on. And then AI that some people are worried about, I'm not terribly concerned myself because I don't believe that they have the necessary ability to grab the interest of the emotions that are happening right now. Now, I think that, and in discussion with someone else, he and I were both talking about this, I do believe that AI is going to help some authors write faster. They're going to be able to write the beats. They're going to be able to do it, and then you're going to have an editing. So there will be some that LMBPN does use technology to help us get into places faster. We're definitely looking at the whole the ability speech synthesis for audiobooks, but we're not necessarily looking at Audible. The contract in Audible says you have to have a human being, but that's not the only way that you can make money. Nor is what's the other distributor for audio? Findaway.
Podium, Tantor, Dreamscape,
Well, those are the
as
Findaway.
distributor. Yeah.
Yes, distributor. So Findaway, I'm not even talking about Findaway, but how about let's take this for a gander. Think about YouTube. You can put something up on YouTube, and I should know because people rip the crap out of our audio products and they put them up on YouTube, and they're stealing from us. And I know that they have commercials and everything else, so they're making money. And if they can make money, why don't I just take my own product? I can put it through some of these, which are getting good enough for that kind of quality, and we have a bunch available. So you have other, we're going to have a, profusion of this opportunity. Things that genres, everybody has gotten smart. They've gotten, well, not everybody, but you're going to have people quit. We've seen the whole situation. We don't know where, for example, the biggest indie income was Bella Forest. That situation occurred and exploded. And frankly, I don't know what's going on with it. I haven't checked into that in a month or two since it first was notified. But the sales just tanked. This is what, 3 months ago or something?
100 million page reads just disappeared overnight.
Yeah, I'm sure it kind of went like this. But the challenge is that they're all in court and nothing else is getting made. So you never know what's going to change in the industry or even become known. I'm not personally overly concerned because it has seemed like it's been true since we began, which is those that want it the worst, that are willing to work really hard, figure out a way. And
Yeah.
that's been true since before I started, and it's true now. The fact that there are great covers also means it's a lot easier for you to get a great cover. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to spend $1,000 or 1,500. You can, and there's some artists that are well worth it, but you can also find some fantastic covers. Like I have one of our best-selling covers right now is "How to Be a Badass Witch." That cover was found because I happened to have joined a few Facebook groups. The artist had put it up, going, "Hey, this is my latest cover." I looked at it and I'm like, "That I want to write that." And we did. And then we reached out to her and got book covers 2 and 3 out of it and built it from there. And so you don't have to have $1,000 cover. It was, like I said, it was like 125, 150 bucks originally.
Yeah.
So there, we've gained readers. I don't think we'll lose them right away as they move on to other things. People have, it's a different normal now. I don't know how society will react, but here's one thing that'll happen. People aren't going to be sticking around in San Francisco for a while.
Yeah.
They've lost a lot of people. We're going to see people decide that I'm never going to go back to a busy city again because I at least want a backyard. I did. I lived on the strip and I was like, I'm out of here. There's no strip to talk about. There's no restaurant right down the street I can go to. All of this concrete and metal is useless to me because it's closed down. And I
Yeah.
was going stir crazy. So now I have a backyard with a pool and I can go outside and I can go upstairs and my mind can be free. I don't want to be under that. And I imagine my life has forever been changed because I will never think and I will always be considerate of what happens if lockdown happens. And so will tens of millions of others.
Yeah. Well, and paperback books is one thing I didn't address because my comments are all to ebooks and audio because paperbacks are with print on demand. If somebody wants a paperback, they can order it. But just going to a brick and mortar store is a hugely different experience nowadays. So those took such a hit over 6 months, and I'm not sure how the traditional publishers are reacting to it. Besides, I see a lot more of their ebooks at reasonable prices, like under $9.99, as opposed to more expensive than the hardback, which is what they're doing to try to drive sales to the hardback. But it didn't work when people couldn't go into the stores. And when there was a big delay in printing because they didn't get the paper, some of the presses shut down, and they did a huge holy crap. I can't wait till next year when we see next year what were their losses, what was their year over year income between 2019 and then 2020, and it was already paperbacks were already not quite doing as well as they had been with the advent of the Kindle. Thank you, Amazon. And pushing it beyond. Other people had tried ebooks and they just never took hold, but Amazon understood content, just like the gamers, the game industry. Hey, we spent all this money writing this game. All they wanted to do was break even or break even on the console and make all the money off the game. So you can get consoles for $200, and for a $70 game, you're like, oh my god! But guess what? People bought the $70 game, and that's where they made their money. So with the books, the paperback and the hardback, no, you really need to make your money in ebook, and I think that's where we're going to see TradPub make it extremely difficult for indies to get visibility beyond finding your own readership, and that's what I've been harping on for 6 months. That's what Michael's been harping on for 2 years. Is build your list, build your own readership. So,
One of the things you and I spoke a little bit earlier, and we were talking about one of the lists, the K-Lytics report,
yeah,
right? And I had mentioned, that there's some situations that I was seeing in this that I didn't feel necessarily was congruent. Early this year or very late last year, somewhere in there, it felt like Amazon had changed and tweaked the algorithm. The rankings of the books and all of our rankings went down a little bit, and some of the rankings of more trad focused books seem to go higher. Do you remember this situation happening? Okay.
yeah, but we couldn't get our finger on why. So I don't
Yes.
I don't know what the I don't know if we ever came to even a reasonable guesstimate on why.
Yeah, I don't either, and that was okay. They also, remember, they took out author rankings, totally
Yeah.
blew them away, which honestly I was happy with. Um, Here's the situation though that I wonder. We have the report that goes through and it talks about how the rankings over time have come up, they've come down, they're in a slope or in a slump. However, what if the algorithm ranking has been changed? It would cause the slump of, say, in this case, science fiction to go down. It would. And then you would think that it's year over year when in reality, no, it wasn't. Unless somehow they've been able to figure out what that delta is and adjust it, which I didn't see anything in the report.
Yeah.
It's not there. Because what I mentioned to you, Craig, a while back that I think you've been paying attention to, so let me know if I'm lying here, but the money didn't change. The ranks went
That's
lower,
right.
but
That's
the
right.
income didn't change.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we were always shooting for top 1,000, hold it there for as long as you can, which of course you still want. But we found out that we were making about the same nowadays with the title that was top 5,000 compared to one that was a top 1,000 that was hovering around 1,000 for a week. Now, if you get a book that's hovering around 5,000 for that same week, the revenue is comparable. It isn't enough that, geez, let's drive more ads. Let's really fire the ads at it, try to drive this book's ranking up. No, you just keep watching from a macro level, and that's one thing that I always do is I just look at overall sales. What are the sales? What's the revenue coming in? Because my books are nowhere near ranked what they used to. I remember at one point a year ago, I had, geez, uh, 20 books in the top 10,000 and another 25 or 30 in the top 25 or 30,000. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'll be damned if I have probably three in the top 10,000, another five in the top 25,000, and in the top 50,000, maybe five more, and that's it. And still, I'm making more than I was a year ago with all these booked ranked so high. So
Yeah.
it's really odd.
Yeah, it's odd. So I think that just be aware of those situations, look more, and you and I have done this already, but we pay more attention to the income than we do the ranks anyway.
Yeah,
We look at the ranks in order to be able to somewhat gauge, but you really can't go year over year too easily anymore. It doesn't feel like. I don't have no one's ever confirmed jack to me
yeah,
about it.
yeah. There's so many changes, and that's like KU. People trying to you can't compare KU1 to KU2 to KU3 payouts. It's just different, and you look at the overall. How are you doing? And that's you want to see a chart where you're doing better each year. That's the win.
So there's that. You remind me. So I have a Chrome add-in that comes from another company, but I hear that there's others that will give you the ranking over time. Ranking, mine does ranking and price simultaneously. And I bring this up because someone had mentioned to me the other day that some of the new books are going out at $6.99. We started at $2.99, then went to $3.99, and then went to $4.99. Now $5.99, $6.99. And there's some value to that. Now, we don't happen to do it, but we have a business reason for it, and that is that we bring out so many books that you're somewhat dinging your reader if you're bringing this many books out. So that's irrelevant of what you can actually get. But for those that don't bring this many books out, and you can find this Chrome, take a look at somebody that's in your genre or that's in what you're writing. That if they change their prices, use this widget to find out whether or not when they change their prices, the ranking got adjusted, because that could actually tell you if it's making a difference or if it's not at all.
Yeah,
Because otherwise we just had people telling us, I changed to $3.99 and I got the same amount of money or sales.
yeah, yeah. And there's speculation both ways. There are people who are convinced both ways that price affects rank, that price affects, and because Brian Meeks he did a study, a very detailed study, but that was 3 years ago, I believe. And what's it like today? And this is everything changes. That's the one constant with Amazon is everything will change. So what worked yesterday may not work today, and that's why we've got to keep constantly working through. And as I have to say, my that one omnibus edition, the free trader that keeps on giving, that one I think I hit the magic algo where, and I think you had said it earlier that you said if we could sell 60 to 80 copies a day, it kind of is self-sustaining, and we can draw our ad copy back and get there. And that's where I'm at with that. I haven't run a promo in 2 months on it, and it's right up there as number one, number two in my daily sales. So hitting that, and I wish I could tell you, hey, here's what I did. Yay, I can replicate it. I can't. So so that's why you got to keep going and keep hungry and keep pushing. Like this book from 4.5 years ago, it's earning revenue, and it goes back to the original 20 books to 50K. Your old books can make you retirement money.
Yeah. Yeah. To the individual asking, did I name the Chrome extension? I did not on purpose name that Chrome extension. I've just been told that you can find ones that are similar, and yes, there is a reason for that. I will, however, name something. You know what? I don't even know how to do it yet. So let me hold off for a couple of months. But we're looking at also the also bots, and you have to screen scrape Amazon, which is, you know what? Let's not go down that tumultuous little discussion on how to get some data from them. But anybody know, by the way, what's going on with Data Guy? Is he ever going to put out another list, or did the last time he put a list, just ruin it?
I think Data Guy went over and only works for the legacy houses now, and so he no longer provides anything for free to the community. And I think the uproar over actually putting people's names on that list, that he got an immense amount of grief on that, and from people who are very, very well off, threatening to sue him. So it isn't just your average author. Oh, I'm going to get a lawyer. Yeah, whatever. It's people who can afford lawyers said, don't do that. I'm going to get a lawyer. And he's like, I better not. I don't want to lose all my revenue paying a lawyer. Me as a lawyer, I think you should. Everybody should pay lawyers, just because we have to afford our BMWs somehow.
So, you don't have a BMW. You have a Tacoma.
I have a truck. I have oh God, that hurts me. A Nissan, a King.
Sorry.
I have a Titan.
Titan. Yes. It's Titan. One of those big trucks. It's
a big truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I bought it with royalties, so this is it was a righteous, wondrous year of that's always a cool feeling. I know we've run some threads in 20 books to 50K. Hey, what have you done with your royalties? And some people vacations. Some people paid their house off. Some people, it was just, hey, I'm able to take my family out to dinner once a month, to a really nice dinner, and we couldn't do that before. So huge wins for the indies at whatever you can do, and how you celebrate the time you invest, and then the value that you've realized from your words.
So a couple of the different things that are also going on is, the stories of how you or I did things in the beginning and how we got there, I think have perhaps been mutated in time, or somebody assumed a few things, which is great. But in setting the record straight, I think that one of the things that helped me was the fact that I wrote stories that I liked, right? So I enjoyed reading my stories. I thought they were great. So guess what happens is I get fans who like to read stories like me, same type of stories as I do. And what happens in marketing is you're supposed to go and create the perfect theoretical person you're going to sell to. And based on this understanding of your target market, this person, you're supposed to then create products and create advertising that fits what matters to this illusionary person. But in my case, I was the person, right? So understand, for everybody there, that from a marketing perspective, I am the walking embodiment of the perfect fan for myself and my writing. And that made my marketing so much easier to make, because if I looked at it and I liked it, well, the people who read my stuff were probably going to like it. So you have an advantage if you write books you enjoy versus following the tropes et al. So just some thoughts.
Well, and that's the premise in Right to Market, is begin with the reader in mind. And if you find this reader group, this reader, let's say a template, this is what they like, give it to them. And especially if it blends with, here's what I like to write, this is how you want to make that Venn diagram. Instead of like this overlap, you want to make it like this. This is what I like to write, and look at all these readers who like to read this. That's the huge win, and that's where Michael Anderle and the dynamo of LMBPN has delivered. They consistently give their readership with that overlap of, hey, here's what people are great at writing, and here's what we're delivering, and every new book resonates. This is almost every new book. There was that romance distraction that you shouldn't ever do again, Michael.
Friends.
Are you going to set that record straight?
No, I'm not. I can't promise, even though Lynn and Steve have both given me a lot of grief over even potentially considering that. I hate failure. I'm aggressive about being able to accomplish that which I may not have accomplished before. And let's face it, romance is got all of that money there. And I want two things: fans who want to reread our stories and make money. When you see that much money in romance, it's a constant temptation. Now, I've stayed out of the temptation for like 18 months. Yep, shut up. and let's face it, according to Justin, you and I will never be cover models for romance books. Thank you very much, Justin. Honestly.
For fitness models, yeah, that's
Yes.
that's not going to be
me. So true, so hurtful, but so true. Not that hurtful, actually. I'd do a better job if it really bothered me about losing this weight.
I want to heckle golfers off your back porch. That's my fitness regimen.
The problem is that I think about that, and I look out here and I go, he would do it too. All of my potential neighbors all getting pissed off. Craig, shut the hell up.
You're going to get me kicked out of the neighborhood.
Exactly.
I like this house.
It's the perfect house, man. Shut up. Shh. Man, you totally saw. I don't remember where I was going.
You're talking about romance. You're talking about romance, and 18 months you avoided it.
The other challenge is I do need to, as a company, expand to other genres because we outgrew our readership. We were producing books too fast for them to be able to read, and we're going back in and re-releasing some of those mega books where we're releasing them as basically a single book, but they were 3 books in one. Now we're going back and breaking them out into the original books. So there's a chance for our fans to get to reread them again, since they might have missed them the first time. But beyond that, we do need to expand. There's different ways that you can do that. One of which is you find new readers, constant effort to do that. And we'll try new things in 2021 about that. And then you can actually just acquire other companies, which I have no idea how to do. I'll hire that.
There's that too.
Yeah.
But romance, I tried my hand at a short story and was summarily shut down. I don't read the genre. So I was just winging it, and don't insult romance readers by winging it. And thank God I didn't farther than here's a short story, and I gave it to my readers, and they liked it just fine. My sci-fi readers. But we put 2 anthologies together that 20 Books of 50K has sponsored, because we've gone from passive support to a little bit more active support with the 20 books, the Sweet romance anthology, and then we have the Steamy anthology, which that's actually kind of embarrassing. Don't join that group, whatever you do. It's kind of embarrassing, unless you're me, and then it's kind of fun. So those 2 anthologies, they're doing well. The Sweet one is doing very well so far. It's the best anthology that I've ever done in regards to revenue. It's staying ahead of the curve of all of the other ones I've done. The science fiction ones, and I've done 6 of those. Fantasy, a thriller anthology, and plus we've got a thriller anthology coming out. So much active stuff, and it's not like, hey, I have to be one of the 25 that get into this anthology. No, you join the group. We've got 200 people in the Sweet Romance group that are following every step of the way. Here's how we're advertising. Here's what we're doing. Here's a template for sharing, for newsletter shares. Here's a way to engage the readers where we aren't overwhelming them all on the same day. Hey, it's released. Everybody buy the book, and we have 1,000 sales one day, and then 0 the next 6 days. Which that's the algo kiss of death for anybody who publishes on Amazon. Having a big spike, it makes for one great day, but it doesn't give you the love like my book that has resonated and keeps getting good sales, even without a big marketing campaign behind it, because it got the love. And this is what all of these lessons that we're trying to teach. So you didn't get in, but look, I can learn, and I'm learning in my exact genre, which it doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get any better than that. So active learning, passive learning, all of these opportunities. When I was one of the first 50 that joined, people were just sharing, hey, here's what worked. Here's what worked. Here's a guy, my cover designer. Here's an editor. Those kinds of things. But that got old fast. Not old, but we got over that fast. Because we had so many people that, hey, if I share my editor, I'm going to lose my editor.
And
so,
it happened. It wasn't even there. It was a situation, I would like to speak to this a little bit. It isn't so much the beginning, but the fact that we didn't understand, look, we're sharing. Well, that didn't stop those that, were selfish. And I'd go further on this. I'm trying to keep it very PG because it pisses me off. But we would do these things and they'd go in there and go, okay, well, look, they made it an effort to steal the resources of the people who are sharing them. And that just irritates the crap out of me to this day.
Yeah. So we limited some of that. And now it's just open threads. Hey, if you're an editor, share yourself. So we have started letting editors, VAs, cover designers into 20 books to 50K, and the people who have no intention of ever writing a book, but they can get in on the self-promo threads where, hey, cover designers go here, because we really want to do as much one-stop shopping as we can, with the caveats that 20 books to 50K does not endorse anybody who advertises in the self-promo threads, but it's still, you can go there. Because I know K-boards used to have some of that stuff. It was really difficult to navigate. Now all you got to do is go find that thread, look down, and say, "Hey, I added sci-fi, nickel a word, whatever they're charging," and away you go. Yeah,
it better be a lot.
I wouldn't pay that.
Estimate that.
But all of those threads. So we're doing that. So we've got active, we've got passive, we've got direct, we've got just directories, things that you can help yourself. And we just we're climbing towards 46,000 members. I told Michael a couple days ago that I think that we're going to have 50,000 members of 20 Books to 50K come 20 Books Vegas 2021.
And then so my answer to you was, well, if that's going to be the truth, what are we going to give away? What are we going to give away, Mr. Martelle?
I don't know, man. We're doing some sponsorships for budding authors, for internships.
Yeah,
and I think we'll highlight those individuals. But a big giveaway for 20 books to 50K. We could throw some additional swag out for the 2,600, 2,500 people who will come to 20 books to 50K on us, not on the show. For thank you for being a member. And then for those who don't come to the show, we'll do a separate one. We can do a separate one for each of the recorded events that we show live, for that anybody can listen in on. We'll go through. We should have about 200 of those. We can pick something and do a direct send. So we can do something like that.
Vote number 2 for the dinosaur love story.
Oh, we've got that. Don't fuck with me. We're going to have that done in paperback for 20 Books Vegas 2021. I will have a paperback of Mark and me writing Velociraptor. We're not going to do reverse Velociraptor. We're going to do Velociraptor.
Rapture. Yeah. All right. I do not. You know what? Never mind. You've been sticking around with the Steamy group way too much. That's all.
No pictures, unlike the Steamy group. So I will have a paperback of Velociraptor by Craig Martelle and Mark Dawson, available at 20 Books Vegas 2021.
Justin, you bring up a good question. And just to clarify, obviously, Robin Cutler is not a VA. She's the president of the publishing of LMBPN. Yes. I was merely trying to point out the fact that as you grow all the way to where I am in a situation, is that same mentality of hiring and outsourcing the resources to the best people possible. Don't limit yourself. Robin was retired. She had retired from Ingram Spark. 9 years at Ingram. Before that, she was with Amazon. And she had retired, and 2 days into it, I swooped in and said, "Hey, Robin, are you really enjoying this? Is this really what you want to do?" wouldn't you like to join this company and see what you can help us bring it to? And fortunately, she brought it up. And Craig brought up an interesting point. He goes, I have a habit of hiring people out of retirement. Him.
Unretiring people, as I think
Yes,
it's unretiring.
yes, unretiring,
And,
including Craig himself.
and Steve.
Steve, Robin. And then I realized I retired, that they say oftentimes you get to retire your spouse. Well, I retired my spouse and then I hired her. So I unretired her as well. And then going back to your thing, Justin, I think, where's LMBPN going? Here's the situation. And I've alluded to it a little bit before, but I went through a health scare back in September. And it became obvious that there were some things that we needed to do in LMBPN, which is to make sure that the ability for it to move on, if anything were to happen to me, is first sacrosanct, because there's so many people that depend on this company. Their families depend on this company. The food that's on the table is supported because of things that happen in this company, and that was important to me. So we moved all of the stuff that we had to right away. All of the financial stuff of getting people paid all went to the bookkeepers, the CPA company that works with us. And so that was the first thing, to make sure that nothing were to change there. We made sure that we're financially beyond, if anything untoward were to happen to me, there would be a massive insurance infusion. This company is good because we have many people that are going on. And then beyond that, I had to have less stress. And it was looking at it from the standpoint that I do have studied business well enough to know that generally companies are started by one of two people, either software people, or excuse me, salespeople, or it's by the research and development. It's the person who created the product in the first place. And that at some point in the maturity of the company, that person needed to either become the president and stop what they were doing and what they originally were good at, or they need to back off and get somebody else who's better at doing that. And it became obvious I needed to move to what we created as the chief creative officer, and I needed to bring that person in who had the skill set to be the president. And so that's what I chose for the path of my company. And I got to tell you, it was a damned good feeling the day that we announced to everybody that it was happening, because LMBPN left the whole foundation-led company and became its own entity where I could step out. And, my ego, which I've talked about before, it's big enough, was able to step back and go, the company is more important than me. The people that helped drive the company to where it was and where it is and where it can go was more important to me than me. And so I step back, and as Craig mentioned earlier, I get to go do the things that my talents are much more suited for. And yet, I can grow this company 20%, 30% year over year just doing that. And since we're a multi-seven-figure company, that's nothing to sneeze at. But I want a company that can get to 100 million. And I have the ideas to make it happen. What I lack is, for one thing, the relationships. I mean, we've been to the Frankfurt Book Fair 3 times. LMBPN's been to the London Book Fair 2 times, and one time when they closed it, the New York Book Fair twice. They closed that. Maybe there's something that's happening here. But we've also been to China twice. I mean, we've been around the world, and we've been pushing. So LMBPN has always had an international desire. We have 65 books translated into German right now. We'll do another 60 in 2021. Find another company that's doing that. We have something like 15 or 16 simultaneous series being translated right now into German. We have 2 to 3 in Dutch. We've been testing Spanish. We personally, as a company, have 220 something audio that we've done, and we've licensed hundreds more. So that's all part and parcel of what we built now. But there are other ideas that we care to go to that someone of Robin's caliber and knowledge and expertise and relationships can push these ideas forward, or find out if they're not going to happen. And I personally don't have the personality to do it, because it requires me to get up and do things that I just don't care to do. And let's face it, when you start making 6 figures a month, it becomes really hard to make yourself do shit you don't care to do. At least it does me, because I'm like, what? The money basically goes back into the company. So we just build the next set of books. So it's not like I'm sitting around, gathering 100 grand every month. That's not happening. But I don't need to do those things. And with the heart scare that I had going to the hospital, I had a blood pressure of 220 over 160, I think, at the hospital. And, there were some things, I went in an ambulance. And the interesting thing about that was, I'm in the inside of the ambulance. I'm fine at the moment. They had checked my arms, and the major thing had passed already. But I'm inside this ambulance going, this is a lot smaller than I thought. And how the hell am I going to write this right off? Is like, maybe I can use this in the inside of a book. I'm thinking to myself, the IRS is probably, I never did it, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, how can I write off this experience that I'm doing? And so I want the company to go to 100 million. I'm not the person to make it happen. I am the person to make this company, happen, go to 10 million. And while I'm making and continuing to make sure that it is profitable to drive the other things that we're doing, I have other people that are going to hopefully go after the at bats that'll take us, home runs. I hope that helps.
That's it. And Michael's romance pen name was female, Mixie Fun Girl or something like that.
Bullshit. Don't.
It wasn't Mixie.
Yeah, don't believe Craig for Jack. Why did I ever admit you were my best friend? Why?
Why did you ever try to write romance? And I'm doing this for you. You asked me to do this to you, so you didn't. You did. You did because you said I don't.
Yeah, you know what? That is true. If you stretch the truth.
Well, because you know yourself, and I think I'm going to try it again. And I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah, Mixie Fun Girl. Do not let her raise her ugly head again. So. So here
Michael,
we are.
Actually, I don't. Well, maybe Craig does. I don't personally. You'd be surprised how little I am on social media. I have to go to Craig and mainly Craig, to actually know what the hell's going on. I'd love to meet people and whatever. And I met actually an individual who's, I don't even know her pen name. It's like Liz or Lynn. She's in one of the romance books. Anyway, her and her husband over the holidays came up and we got to meet them. I love meeting people, but I'm incredibly introverted. You really won't find me out on the internet just cruising around doing anything, because I'm either trying to work on the company, doing something for the company. Occasionally I'm watching stupid YouTube videos. And by the way, if you're going to talk about guilty pleasures, it's the reaction videos to the latest Eminem, Music to Be Murdered by Side B. I'm enjoying the fuck out of that. We're setting the record straight, man. We're setting the record straight.
That's right. That's what we're here for. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and for March is probably going to be out. So but my drive across America, I am going to go to NINC September 22 to 26.
Oh, so we're not driving anymore? Is that that's what I'm hearing?
We might be in September.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to drive across and then end at NINC and turn in my rental car and then fly back, fly actually through Toronto on the way home to spend a couple days with authors up in Toronto on the way. But yeah, you're welcome. Please join me as much as you can for that journey, because we're going to major cities, so you can always fly out if need be. And I'll share that whole schedule with you. We'll start off and whip up from Vegas. We'll start in Vegas, and then we'll whip up to through Colorado, do Colorado Springs, because Kevin J. Anderson there, Jonathan Brazy's there, and a lot of other good people, good authors. And then to Denver for a day. So those two places, just because there's so many authors.
There's a steakhouse that I put in a book over there. Capitol Grill, as a matter of fact. I think I should do that,
because there's that a Mexican restaurant in Denver where they have a high dive. They have cliff divers in the restaurant. It's crazy. I've eaten there, and it was this dude's diving off a freaking thing inside the restaurant. It's way cool. So
that sounds like Steamy. The Steamy Romance group should get into that one.
And then
here comes your meat.
This is why you're not in the Steamy group.
That's true. Michael Todd would be very happy in that group. Michael Todd has no problem.
And then cruising across America, we'll go over to Kansas, go to Kansas City, because Dakota Kraut has offered to sponsor us there and each place we go, we would have an evening, a dinner, and have a dinner with 20, 30 people, whoever would be able to show up, and then we'll just talk, chat, and then bail and get on the road the next day and drive like 5 or 6 hours in between, just because, hey, we still have work to do. But with two of us driving, hey, we can do work while we're driving as well as when we're in a hotel. Writing and jamming away. And no, Michael's not staying in my room because I get up at 3 and I make a lot of noise. So no way.
That's not
You
the
get your
main
own
reason.
room.
Yes, that's the main reason I get my own fucking room. That's the main reason.
That's a given. Well, when stoned, we're not in the Marine Corps anymore. Go sleep on somebody's couch. I don't think so, man. I'm getting a hotel, a nice one.
Yeah, it's called a write-off for a reason.
That's right. That's right. So we'll go through, and David Grundy has volunteered to I think he's an Emmy-winning producer. So he's to manage our road show. So each place, there might be a nominal cost to attend these dinners, and we'll pick up all the extra costs, and we'll go through them. So anyway, September, because by then the world should be open back up enough that we can go there, and because I'm getting the vaccine as soon as I can. So anyway,
that's hilarious.
We are going through Tennessee because we do want to see Ingram. Have you been through the Ingram factory tour? I really want to go through there because I'm adding more and more books through Ingram nowadays.
Yeah, we moved. We had to move hundreds of books from Create Space over to Ingram, and I have to find out where the status is on that. But we, corporately, we are moving all books over to Ingram.
Yeah, and keeping them on Amazon as well, right?
I believe. You know what? That would be somebody else's situation. Okay. I don't know,
because that's what I'm doing. I have my books on Amazon, exclusive to Amazon, without the extended distribution. I'm using my own ISBNs, and then I put them on Ingram for all of the other distribution because I want to get in. I don't want to get in libraries, and that's like free money because hey, I already paid for the full wrap cover. It's really it doesn't cost you anything extra to put it on Ingram once you're publishing a paperback, as long as you get the cover artist on board at the beginning, because the way they have to format is just a little bit different. But it's a good gig, and so we'll drive. Looking at September for a drive across America, probably beginning of September-ish to start and make that run through as much of America as Michael wants, and I'll finish up in Tampa Bay, where I'll end at NINC.
I guess we're not taking the BMW then.
Well, driving it back. Who wants to drive that bitch back? Jeez. I mean, it's nice, but oh my God.
Well, sir, we have done our hour and 7. If no one has any more questions, why the move to Ingram? And the short answer to that is, if you care to do anything with anybody outside of POD inside of Amazon, you're going to you have a high likelihood of encountering issues if they see that it is an Amazon company. They effing hate Amazon. And so bookstores and everything else, if they see an Ingram ISBN, they're okay. If they see a Create Space or anything to do with it, they just won't give you the time of day.
Yeah, because they can order through Ingram. Libraries can then order through the system that through which Ingram distributes to, and it gets you where it gets you in places that Amazon cannot. So that's it. And buying your own
Australia.
ISBNs. Yeah,
in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah. Ingram. Yeah, Ingram has a printing location in Australia. So if you've ever had to print and ship, which we have, to fans in Australia because they won something, and you realize how many weeks and hundreds of dollars it costs to do that, you'd like, man, wouldn't it be great if they just printed in Australia? And the answer is Ingram does.
They do. Yep. So there you go. 68 minutes. Holy cow. Anyway, this is Craig and Michael setting the record straight. 20 books to 50K, looking at 50,000 people by Vegas this in 2021. A monumental effort.
Not the group.
Monumental effort to get there, and it's all because of the good people within the group. They share. People are kind. We boot people. We're well over 5,000 now. We're blocked from the group because, hey, don't advertise, don't self-promo, don't be a dick. And you'll be able to stay in the group and learn and move forward or not if you don't want to. It's all up to you. And that's the great thing about being indie. You decide your future and then take the steps necessary to get where you need to go.
Yeah, and the short answer is if you have the time, just put it on both KDP and Ingram. It's easy to do on KDP if you've got an ebook there anyway. So, just have at it. Just be aware you don't do what's the distribution? You say extended distribution.
Don't do extended on Amazon, and do not click over to distribute on Amazon from Ingram. Everything else is fair game, and then you get the broadest possible distribution that you can get.
And then the individual that was asking me about that that Chrome extension, just reach out to me personally. Hopefully I'll see it and I'll get you some information from there. All right. Bye, folks.
Hey, peace, everybody. Oh, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah.
I did watch Die Hard, and of course, New Year's, I'm going to watch the perfect New Year's movie, The Poseidon Adventure, the original one with Gene Hackman. None of the other remakes were anywhere near as good. So anyway, that's the New Year's movie after you've watched Die Hard for Christmas, and then Die Hard 2 for Boxing Day. So you have both of those Christmas movies, and then your New Year's movie is Poseidon Adventure.
I did see Wonder Woman yesterday. It was solid. It didn't have the same, but I got to give Patty Jenkins credit because they slammed her. She was expecting a 2021 release, and then even before COVID, they said, "Oh, summer," and then so she had to deal with all of that. So the story could have been a little bit smoother. Absolutely, the graphics were still pretty damned amazing. Happy that we went, and here in Nevada, they limit how many people can be, but we actually went to the theater for the first and only time in 2020.
Tough year, new one next year. Bye, everybody.
Yep. Bye, folks.